This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to the Paracave Podcast. This is the Round 20 review round that my chat I have with Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM. We did a Zoom chat. And this wasn't on the radio on Sunday, but because I was at the Parramatta Titans game. But we did a review chat of around 27 games during the weekend. Some exciting ones, some blowout scores, and some teams losing the race to get into the top 8, some teams getting into the top 8 and just solidifying their spot in there, and that all-important race for the top 4. So, anyway, this is my chat I have with the Duckman from Pulse FM 89.9 FM. I'll be back on there again on Friday night at approximately 7:05 PM. So tune into that one if you can. But in the meantime, enjoy this Round 20 review. Over to you, Duckman.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here for the Round 20 review with the Duckman and Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. You can see Troy's background is much better than mine, so I normally have a backdrop of a rugby union jersey, but I have to move a lot of stuff off my bed to do that, so that is not happening, so you can just look at my ugly head today, and that will do. Troy, how are you going this weekend after the NRL Round?
Yeah, going pretty well, Duckman. Look, it's getting towards the end, the business end of the season, where every game is very, very crucial. Results are going to be crucial. For and against is going to be crucial, but thankfully my Eels got a 1-point win over the Titans, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So that was relieved a little bit of pressure, and it actually gave me a perfect round in the tipping this week. So pretty happy about that one.
Yeah, there you go. So a couple of sides decided to do me wrong. So I did go for a couple of upsets just to throw it out there. So anyone that put money on any of my tips last week, maybe go and see a doctor or a financial investor, and they might tell you maybe not to do that. So how's your heart going after the game anyway? Didn't the Eels clutch it in the end, very, very end of the game?
Yeah, it was about, I think, 4 minutes to go. I think the field goal was kicked. The equalising conversion was, I think, 12 and a half minutes. So for a period there, it was a little bit, nerve-wracking as to when the field goal shot was going to be placed by either team. And then Mitchell Moses stepped up and kicked the field goal, and Tanner Boyd had a couple of shots as well, but missed those ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I reckon they should change how they do the field goals, to be honest with you, a little bit. I reckon they should change it up. So if a prop can kick a field goal, especially from outside the 22, if they can kick it from outside the 22 and further than 15 out from the sideline, it should be worth 3 points, right?
Okay, wow. Well, that'd certainly be an interesting way to certainly rev up Golden Point, I think, ramp that up. But I think I can remember Nathan Kalis, he kicked a left footer, I think it was a left footer, drop goal against Newcastle at Parramatta Stadium, and Big Spud Carroll, he's kicked one as well against Parramatta for South Sydney. So there's a couple of props that have kicked field goals.
Yeah, pretty sure Pat O'Doherty might have whacked a couple as well when he was playing with Wests. And did he spend time with the Eels as well? I think he did, didn't he?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar. I'd have to check that one out.
Yeah, I know Rod Slater did. Rod Slater was a goal kicker too.
And he played
Parramatta. I think he kicked a couple as well too, I think. But that wasn't I would think maybe Rod Slater was probably a back that went into the forwards, kind of like Graham Wynn used to kick a lot too, apparently, before he came into the world of rugby league. So when he's playing country rugby league and all that, and you wouldn't have thought because it never touched the ball when he's playing for the Dragons. So uh, anyway, we'll roll along because we're getting sidetracked with
Yeah.
just some weird anomalies from the past. So go back to Thursday night. Knights took on the West Tigers there, and they did what we thought they would do. They beat them 34-18. Could have been easier. So I don't know what the Knights were doing. So they've been looking all right lately. Adam O'Brien did. So I had him pegged. He was going to get the sack at the start of the year. I genuinely thought he was going to be the first coach who'll get sacked, and the Knights are actually playing some half-decent football. Funnily enough, I do think it is back on the back of the acquisition of Jackson Hastings. So he's made a big difference there. Some people go, no, he hasn't. Well, he left West Tigers. He's left them in a hole, and it wasn't his choice. They did a trade, and I didn't think the trade was great.
Yeah, no, he has certainly been a great acquisition for the Newcastle Knights, obviously coming from the West Tigers. And look, the Tigers season, well, they're just in all sorts of dramas. They are both on and off the field. They've got players who are disinterested in playing for the club. They've got managers involved as well who don't want to take players to that club who are trying to get their players out of that club. They've got off-field dramas with Benji, Tim, and not so much Robbie. You don't hear too much about him, but obviously he's a future head coach, assistant coach with Benji. So there's a lot of dramas going on there. They did sort of step up in this game a little bit. It was 18-12 at half time, and you thought maybe could go any way. But the Newcastle Knights, I think, especially Bradman Best as well, having that experience in Origin on Wednesday night, he came back again to Newcastle and scored a try, and just his confidence at the moment is going really good. Tyson Gamble scored a try right at the end, and Jerome Buller nearly knocked the ball out of his hands when he was going across the line, and there was a shot in the box of Adam O'Brien who just was saying like, put the ball down, but thankfully he got the ball down and scored the try. But I'm sure he would have copped a bit of a roasting in the sheds at full time or at training this week, just saying just put the ball down. But look, Newcastle, they've been playing some reasonable footy. They're trying to stay in touch with the top 8. So they needed that win, especially at home, and they roll on. And for now, Adam O'Brien's job is safe at the moment.
Yeah, so I was pretty sure when I watched part of the game. I didn't watch much of it. I watched a little bit of it on Thursday night. I thought that Bradman Best, his defence was not flash, right? So missing tackles. I thought he missed a few tackles, so maybe got caught up in the hype of the Origin. Maybe he's a little bit sore or whatever. But I thought they got around the outside of him a couple times easy. I don't know if it was just fatigue or if it was they deliberately picked him knowing that he played the night before or whatever. But yeah, I thought, well, okay, he could have done that a lot better. Defensive reads mainly. With the ball, he was pretty good. But defensively got picked out by a side not playing well, and a good side might have actually burned the Knights because of that.
Yeah, potentially that could have been the case. May have just been a little bit tired from Origin. It was his first Origin backup, so a new experience for Bradman. But look, I think he'll learn from that. He'll have another week at training this week, and he should be right to go for this week. I think one positive that's come out of this Origin series is for Newcastle is Kalen Ponga. He ruled himself out of Origin this year and wanted to concentrate on his football for Newcastle. So they've won a couple of games during that period when he's been there for them, and I think it's been a bonus, and he's playing much better football now, I think, back at fullback.
Yeah, he definitely is. So I think Knights, they've got to shelve the idea because they keep talking about, he'll be a 5'8", we'll make him like the next Darren Lockyer. That's not going to happen. Just let the guy play fullback. He's doing all right. If you want to keep doing that, you're going to keep on jigging people around. You're going to need to find the fullback. I don't think they really know what they want at the moment because they want a couple of different things and I don't know what to prioritise. So I'd keep him at the back. He looks good. Um, West Tigers, so just to add more fuel to their fire. So Scott Fulton and Benji apparently had an argument the other day because Scott Fulton was trying to sign someone from, I can't remember who it was from the Super League, a halfback or something.
Aiden Caesar.
Yeah, Aiden Caesar. So he's been a good player. He's played for Gold Coast and that sort of stuff. And he's a solid, experienced guy you kind of want. And Benji goes, no, don't want him. Like, well, you got no other options, mate. Like, you're running out of options. So if you don't bring someone to the table, I'd be signing him anyway. So go, this is the way we're going to go. Like, that, it's torn into pieces, the club. So it's not someone going, we're going to sign this and go forward. Like, Phil Gould, I don't hear Serraldo giving Phil Gould demands, oh, no, we're not signing this guy, not signing that guy at the Bulldogs. Like, either Cameron Serraldo won't be there for very long, or Gus will just go, nah, stuff it, I'm signing him anyway. But at
Yeah.
Tigers, it's just like everyone's throwing their 5 cents in, and they don't have one person in charge of everything, and it looks splintered as anything at the moment. It's not good.
No, it's not, and that's probably one of the reasons why they find themselves on the bottom of the ladder. Um, just that off-field dramas as well goes onto the field as well. But I think they just need to all sit down together and sort it out. And if there is going to be any decisions about players, then obviously Benji needs to be there as well, and Robbie needs to be there, and Tim needs to be there as well, because it's not supposedly it's not until 2025 that Benji and Robbie take over, but that's in 2 years' time. So they all need to be on the same page and discussing player retention and recruitment as well. So that's what needs to happen there. They all need to be on the same page, but sometimes it just seems like they're going behind each other's backs here and there and trying to get the players that they want in on their different sides, sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's a few people told me externally they reckon that the West Tigers, and I kind of agree with it at the moment, because West and Balmain are arguing so bad, they need to get an external coach in, like probably an Anthony Griffin. So it's got nothing to do with either of the clubs, and come in and coach it and just look after it, because at the moment it's a mess and it's not getting better. I can't see Benji Marshall or Robbie Farah making it any better at the moment. I just don't think they're experienced enough to do it. I wonder how a team like Anthony Griffin and Mick Potter would go at the Dragons working together. I actually think they'd probably be more productive than what's going on at the moment. And Mick Potter, like, even though he's been there before, he did a fairly good job with the Bulldogs last year, turned that around before Cameron Serraldo came in. So surely you'd have to be having a look at that as well, going, well, what we're doing now is not working very well. What, they going to write off another year next year and do the same thing again? Like, what happens if they're at the bottom next year? Are they still going to let Benji Marshall and Robbie Farah take control of it? I don't know that you can do that, can you?
Well, as if you're a fan of the Tigers, you'd hope not, because they got the spoon last year. They're on target for the spoon again this year, and you'd certainly not want them to get the year after. And if that's the case, you probably wouldn't want them to take over if they're getting 3 spoons in a row. So, yeah, they're going to have to do something there. And as you said, maybe your idea of getting an external person separate to the Tigers' cause might be a good thing, because you've got those two factions, the Wests and the Tigers, together. So yeah, it could make it difficult. So yeah, maybe get a someone from outside the Tigers involved, and who has no connection with them, and with either West or the Balmain, and get it happening.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we'll kick on to the next game. That's enough for, like, the Tigers are just still heading. You try to think, how can you fix it? It's a big job. So Canterbury up against the Broncos. So Canterbury's rebuild hasn't gone so well this year, and they got spanked. Broncos were good the other night, 44-24 winners over the Bulldogs. I don't think the Bulldogs were ever really in the game, were they? Adam Reynolds come out and just started firing away from the start.
Yeah, look, it was an emotional day at Belmore. Obviously, Josh Reynolds played his last game of rugby league there in the New South Wales Cup, so they had a massive sellout crowd at Belmore. And look, the Bulldogs stood up in the first half. They really gave it to the Broncos. The Broncos were just sort of cruising along, and they didn't have Pat Garrigan. He set out the game, but as you said, Adam Reynolds sort of turned it on in the second half, and in the end, the Bulldogs couldn't keep up with the Broncos, and they scored all their tries in the second half and ran away with the victory. So they're looking pretty at the top of the ladder. I think they're second at the moment, behind the Panthers, equal on points, I think. So look, they're playing some good footy, and hopefully they won't want to go into a fade like they did last year. But the Bulldogs, they tried hard, and look, they were in it up until half time and just after half time, and I guess just the class of Adam Reynolds took over.
Yeah, it did take over. So I would have really thought that at the start of this year, he would have nearly been close. He would have been not very far behind Nathan Cleary to be potential halfback. When Cleary got injured, surely must have nearly been behind Nathan Cleary again to take over at halfback. So a couple of guys there or thereabouts. If Nico Hines and I think Phil Gould and Brad Fittler, anyone involved with New South Wales, Greg Alexander, they did not help Nico Hines when they moved him to centre. So otherwise, Adam Reynolds would have nearly been the New South Wales halfback. If Nico Hines had to play good, I actually think maybe they would have slotted Reynolds in with Nico Hines, but they went, oh, so now we've got to change him, and they're going to have to do too many things. So they tried to do it one at a time per game till eventually they got probably what they wanted. So I wonder if they would have kept Jerome Luai if they had a one-game two work with Mitchell Moses. Maybe they would have. Maybe Cody Walker wouldn't have got back in, but they lost, so they got to change it around and got the result. The Broncos look good. If the wheels don't fall off the bus injury-wise, surely they're going to carry this form going forward this year and won't miss the finals again.
Yeah, well, at the moment, they're, I think, second favourites to win the premiership, and a few former players have tipped them to win the comp, and they're just playing some good footy at the moment, and they've got a reasonable run home, and as long as they can stay healthy and keep playing the way they're playing, then there's no reason why they can't give this competition a shake.
Yeah. In the next game, so Manly took on the Cowboys on Saturday night as well, and they went down 19 points to 8. The Cowboys were good. I thought Manly had looked a bit flat. They weren't too bad, but you can just tell that they're missing good players like Jake Trbojevic and that sort of, Tom Trbojevic. It's just a big hole. I think it's going to be too big a hole to help them get into the top 8. And if they do, no, I don't think they're going to have the X Factor strike weapons out. Well, I just don't think they've got it.
No, they don't. Obviously, we all know Tom's out at the moment. This was at Brookvale Oval. They usually step it up there, their spiritual home, and they were wearing a 1950s heritage jersey, which looked pretty good. It had the collars on it, so you don't see jerseys these days with collars on it. But look, the Cowboys, they've been playing some good footy the last. I think this is their 6th win in a row, so they're just outside of the top 8 on for and against. So they're looking pretty good, like they were in last year in 2022, and they're winning games and they're not letting points in. So they're getting back to their defensive patterns and not letting teams score points. And as was the case the other night, one of the highlights for Manly was Dean Madison on debut at 25, Ryan's brother. He scored a try on debut for Manly. He came on in the centre's position and scored a try off a kick after Jason Saab threw the ball up, and Olaguatu got it and passed it to him, and he scored in the corner. So it was great to see Dean score a try on debut. I think his brother Ryan scored a try on debut as well for the Roosters. So I think they're the 10th set of brothers to score tries in NRL debuts, so that was one highlight for Manly, but they've got a lot of work to do, and their season is slowly slipping away.
Yeah, I think it's starting to slip away too. So as Ryan Madison and his brother Dean, are they sons or related to Terry Madison? They used to play for the Roosters and the Broncos.
Yeah, they're his nephews. Yeah. There
you go. So he's another guy that could goal kick, massive toe punter back in the day. He was a solid player. Played number 8 or lock for New South Wales for a while there in the State of Origin. Don't think he played in test matches, Terry Madison. But played for Roosters for a while and went up. So had an anomaly at the time when he was playing for New South Wales. A couple of New South Wales players playing for the Broncos, him and Chris Johns. And so they had for a little while. They had a couple up there, him, Chris Johns.
Glenn Lazarus.
We also have Luke Prittis and Glenn Lazarus. So players playing for New South Wales in the Broncos. It's good to see if they can get some sort of stuff like that going again. It's good to infiltrate the Broncos and filter them down. So let them know New South Wales are a superior state. No. We'll see if the Madison boys can carry on like their uncle did. So he's a good player to have a good career if they can match that form. Next game, so the Roosters, I'm telling you, don't put your house on the Roosters because you're going to do your backside the moment. They went down to the Storm the other night, 30-16, but they look like a side that's down near the bottom of the comp at the moment. They just not cohesive. Good players are not firing up. Gordon Tallis was talking about the other day, said they play teddy ball normally, so when things are going well, James Tedesco is leading the way and they've got every team on the back foot. They're rolling through. He's not playing great. A couple of other players like Kiri and that are not playing great either. That's just not working right across the board. And Melbourne came out and just went through the motions and then clicked a couple of gears and they nearly blew them away. So it ended up being like a pretty good score there for Melbourne and could have been much worse for the Roosters.
Yeah, well, the Roosters weren't going to play teddy ball because James Tedesco wasn't playing in this game. He had the week off, which is probably due to the State of Origin series taking its toll, I guess. But my personal opinion in this is if your season's on the line and you need to win games, then your best players need to play. And whether you've played Origin or not, all three games, apparently, there was a bit of controversy as well because he was up in Byron Bay for the weekend and not at the game. And it's come out today that apparently Trent Robinson has said that he gave him permission to go up to Byron Bay for the weekend. So just to get away from football completely. So that choice, I guess, backfired on the Roosters because obviously they had one of their best players out and they lost the game and their season's on the line as well now, so they're going to find it very hard to make the 8 as well. I think they're on a logjam with, I think, three teams on 20 points, and they're going to have to look like they're going to have to win every single game from now on in. Melbourne, well, they have a good record against the Roosters. I think they've won the last 7 out of the 8, so that trend continues. Xavier Coates, he scored a triple. So he was in fine form, a couple of long-range tries as well. The Melbourne juggernaut just keeps on going on again, and I think they're in the top 4 at the moment. So then they're probably sort of, I wouldn't say a sleeper of a team, but they're not one of those top teams that everyone is talking about at the moment. I mean, everyone's talking about Penrith, Brisbane. They're talking about the Sharks losing their way. They're talking about the Raiders as well, but we're not hearing a lot about the Storm, and I guess that's probably because that's what we just expect from the Storm, to be right up there anyway. So they're sitting in a pretty comfortable position at the moment.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. So everyone talks about what Cameron Munster does, but Jerome Hughes does a lot. He does a lot of stuff for Storm. They got good outside backs and everything, so they look pretty settled right across the whole lineup. They've got a balanced team. They're still missing Ryan Pappenhausen. That's massive. So until he's back, and even when he can't, I don't reckon he's going to come back this year, to be honest with you now. If he does, I wonder what they're going to get out of it and give him a bit of a light test and light run, because I don't know if I'd burn him in the finals, right? Because he's be 3/4 of the season behind everybody else. They start training in November. He will literally start training not too much longer before he gets onto the field, if that's within the next month or so, I suppose. So it won't have much to go before the season's over and done with. And maybe they wait till next year and he plays then.
Yeah, he's back at training now, I think, and we saw footage during the week of him at training. I think it's probably a good handy player to have on the bench, or in reserve at the moment. I think the best way for him would be to probably play some Queensland Cup with their feeder team, the Melbourne Storm. So I think that might be the best way for him to come back slowly. There's still, 6 rounds to go in the NRL, so if he can play a couple of games in Queensland Cup, and even if he doesn't play any NRL, well then he's still a handy player to put in just in case if anything does happen to an outside back in the Melbourne Storm. So you definitely bring him back because the amount of time that he's had off, it's going to be difficult to get back in the NRL, just the speed of it and game time and stuff. So that's what I'd be doing. I'd be putting him in Queensland Cup if he's fit and ready to go. Just let him play there, get used to playing again, get used to him making tackles, having runs, passing the ball, whatever, and then I wouldn't disrupt this. It's not to say that it would disrupt the side, but I wouldn't put him in the Melbourne Storm side at the moment, the NRL side, unless there was an injury or a suspension to the Storm. And as I said, it's a pretty handy player to bring in if one of those things does happen.
Yeah, that's right. So it is worth looking at, sure. So I just wouldn't burn him. Like I said, when you got availability of like Guy, if he wasn't injured last year, I think he would have been New South Wales fullback because I thought he was playing better last year before he got injured. He was holding points, scoring records for that time of season. I actually think he might have got 300 points for the year. I genuinely think that killed the Storm season right there. They had a serious chance to win the comp last year until that happened, and then like other things happened as well, and they derailed it fairly hard. You can't write him off. So, yeah, you'd bring him back, but I would filter him through. He's definitely going to need to play some Queensland Cup games just to get some match conditioning before he goes on to the NRL.
Yep.
The next game, the Warriors, they came out and they ripped it up the Sharks, 44-12. Big win. Yep. They did everything we thought they were going to do. They actually showed some resolve now, which the Warriors haven't shown for a while. So they've only had 3 coaches who really done a lot there. Daniel Anderson, trying to think who the second one. Ivan Cleary. Daniel Anderson, Ivan Cleary, and now Andrew Webster, funnily enough. He's the lowest profile out of these guys. They've been able to get, just turn all the buttons in the right direction, press everything, get the Warriors firing. So says a lot about him as a coach. I think he's a very good coach. And didn't have the world's most impressive NRL career, but we've shown that he can get the job done as a coach. I can tell you that right now with a squad which was really underrated.
Yeah, well, we've seen for years that the Warriors have been up and down like a yo-yo. They can win games, they can lose games. During this origin period, it's important for them to win games, which they have, because obviously they don't have any representation. Usually they don't have any representation during origin. They may have 1 or 2 players here and there, but this year no players, so they were near full strength for the few weeks. Obviously a couple of players out due to suspension and injury, but they're just rolling on. And as you said, Coach Andrew Webster, he's probably in line for Coach of the Year at the Dally M's. He's just quietly gone about his business and really transformed this team, connected this team, and I think Sean Johnson has had a year that has taken him back to the glory days, and when he first started, when the Warriors made the grand final. And so I think he's having a great season. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak scoring tries in the corner like nothing else. He's having one of his best seasons. The addition of Charles Nickel-Clockstar has really improved the Warriors. And look, they're in 5th position on the ladder at the moment, and they've got a pretty good run home, so they'll be really pushing for a top 4 spot. And to get a semi-final over in New Zealand, that'll be massive for them if they can get a top 4 position and get a game over there, because the Australian NRL teams don't like going over to New Zealand. It's a tough road trip, as the Sharks found out on the weekend, and they're slowly struggling as well at the moment. So I think Matty Johns came out and said that either the Sharks or the Eels are one of one of, or maybe both of the teams that may drop out of the top 8 at the moment at the end of the year. So the Sharks, they've got a tough run, and they'll have to win these games to secure themselves in the top 8. They haven't beaten a top 8 side at the moment this year. They did beat Parramatta in round 2, I think it was, but Parramatta were out of the top 8 then. They are in there now, but they struggle against the top teams and they can beat the below teams. So it's back to the drawing board for the Sharks.
Well, there's definitely something to that because Nico Hines, when he really got talked up for Origin, he had a couple of cool games when would have really a normal guy. So if you think of Jonathan Thurston, was one of the best players ever, would go out and just aim up every single week, play say to his best, whatever it is, every week. Nico Hines, he's only young, but he's still having like the hot and cold games. So really a good player. They'll hit a peak where they won't get heaps better, but they'll just consistently do it for 25, 26 games for the year. But Nico Hines is still having some games, could win NRL premierships, and he's having some games that would make you think, would you drop him from West Tigers and that stuff as well? Or games where it just sits back and he'll be maybe get like a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10 because he's not directing traffic. So he really needs to take charge of games like that because Sean Johnson did the other day and the Warriors absolutely smacked him really hard. So that mentally, that's a bad loss for Cronulla. And the Warriors will roll on from here. I think they can make the top 4 now. Cronulla, maybe they are going to be the side that's going to be on the fringe. Someone will, and I think it'll be a shock who it is. So it wouldn't surprise me if Cronulla or the reason why I think Canberra might do it is if Canberra end up on points with someone that's finished 9th as well, that differential is going to hurt them when someone on the other side sitting below them at the moment have got a really good differential. So Canberra don't want to cop another blowout either, or they're going to have a few problems too.
So, that's true. They're sitting on minus 55 at the moment, so the only team in the top 8 with a negative for and against. So they're going to find it difficult if they're on equal points as another team. So their only concentration at the moment will be to win games, and doesn't matter how they win them or by how much they win them by, they'll just want to win games and get those 2 points and stay right up there because of that for and against.
Yeah, that's right. The next game, so I went for the Dolphins in this. Penrith did exactly what I thought they would do too. They sat everyone out. Funnily enough, the second side with everyone sat out, they did a pretty. I think Penrith would have had a bigger risk of losing if they had played some of the guys that played the Origin game. I think some of the fringe guys have got a lot to prove, so they want to get in the team too. So a lot of competition. They took off on the Dolphins the other day and got the lead. And the Dolphins did come back through the middle section of the game, and Penrith, just like the more senior players like Dylan Edwards and that, settled it down, got control of it after Jack Cogger got sin bin and turned it around, just clicked it in and off they went. So ended up winning the game in not too bad style.
Yeah, look, I think at one stage the Dolphins were winning 14-12, so they would have been happy about that, but they were a near full-strength side, the Dolphins, and they were probably, when they saw those Origin players out for Penrith, they were probably thinking, this is a really good opportunity to get a win here, playing at Redcliffe as well, they're home. But the Penrith juggernaut, that just keeps on rolling on, and it not only gives these young players another opportunity to play first grade, it gives them confidence as well, beating a team like the Dolphins at home who are near full strength, and they gives them more experience as well. So again, if players are called on due to injury or suspension, then they've done the job, and they've done the job before, and they could do it again. So the Panthers, I think they sit on the top of the ladder at the moment, so they're pretty happy with that one. And they just roll on, and it just shows you how good their systems are at the moment with the players that come in, if they can afford to rest their Origin players. Obviously Nathan Cleary was a chance to play on the weekend, but I did think that he wouldn't play and sit out another week. So he sits out another week, but more than likely he'll be back this week. So another good win to the Panthers, and as I said, they roll on. The Dolphins, they'll be disappointed that they lost the game, considering they were in it for a lot of the time. But then I guess that just the experience of the Panthers took over and they got the win.
Yeah, so I think a lot of clubs, so if I was West Tigers and George Illawarra at the moment, I'd be looking at Penrith's guys, the fringe guys that are playing a bit this year, not too much. And I'd be looking at the guys in New South Wales Cup and that as well, because I think there's more Jermaine Hopgoods out there in Penrith. They've got a few more of these guys that are good and would or should be playing first grade somewhere else, but they're not going to get to because of how good the side is. So Penrith will have to keep churning players, unfortunately, because the way the salary cap works. So one good and bad thing that Steve Crichton's going to Canterbury next season, so that'll let Penrith keep probably two other guys that maybe they might not have kept, or three guys, with the money that Steve Crichton would be on. The thing is, right, next year, if they won again this year, and they might well do it, they're going to be in a position again. We're going to have inflation on salaries of Dylan Edwards, Jerome Luai, and you're not going to be able to keep everybody. So one of these good players in the next couple of years is probably also going to look at moving on too. So I don't know how you make that pick. So I've got a funny feeling Penrith might let Edwards go because they've done that sort of stuff in the past, right? So, and being able to get fullbacks again. They did it with Reece Wesser. They did it with Brett Atkinson. They did it with Steve Turner. They did it with Lachlan Coote. I could see him doing it again with Dylan Edwards again. So I hope we keep Dylan Edwards, but you're not going to keep them all. So not going to keep all three of those guys, Edwards, Luai, and Cleary. And it's pretty clear they're going to keep Cleary. So who's the next one? It wouldn't surprise me as well, actually, if Jerome Luai moved in a couple of years too for a different sort of challenge or maybe more money as well, because the guys got to look at that. They've got limited time in the game. You want to get as much money as possible. So I think this could change things up, and there'll be clubs sitting around to see what happens at the moment. We'll see what the picture looks like in the next year or two with these guys. I think they're off contract at the end of next year, aren't they?
I think Luai's re-signed for a couple of years. Obviously, Nathan is re-signed long term. I think, as you said, Dylan Edwards is the one that they would want to keep. They're going to have to do some shuffling, I think, to keep him there. But as you said, if Penrith do go on to do the three-peat this year, then their prices will go up as well. So it will be very hard to keep everyone. As you said, they're losing Steve Crichton next year, so there's a bit of money there. So
and Spencer Leonard going to Roosters or whatever.
Yep. So potentially
Poor struggling Roosters.
Yeah, that's it. So potentially Dylan can take Stephen Crichton and Spencer's money as well, I guess, and maybe they'll blot a couple of young players in those other positions just to keep Dylan there. So it'd be a shame to see Dylan go because he led the team on the weekend, and he's pretty much a Penrith boy. So they won't want to let him go, but they'll try and do everything they can to keep him. So just watch his space, I guess.
Yeah, it'll just be a time and duration thing. I don't think he's going to sign any time before the end of the season. He doesn't need to. He's not in a rush. I don't think he's looking in particular. We'll just wait and see if he can get a good deal. And in the last game around, so this one, 100%, like I said, at the start of the broadcast, would have had you on edge of your seat. And the Eels got up against the Titans there, 25-24. I fought for all money there. I was watching the game a little bit on the radio, and then next thing you know, the Titans lead. They went, they're going to win it. And I thought they were going to win it for sure, and then got back near level. And then I went, how did it go? And didn't catch the score until after I got home from the radio. So surely it was a good game, and you seem like you're pretty happy about it. So were you happy that it got that close, or do you reckon the Eels should have pumped them a bit harder?
Oh, look, initially I thought it was going to be a blowout, a 13-plus win to Parramatta. I just thought they'd be on and they'd want to get a massive win in front of their home fans. But they started pretty good. Big RCG got the first try, so very rare that you get a front rower scoring the first try in a game, but he got over. And then Will Penasini scored the second try, so they were quickly 12-0 up, and you thought, okay, well, maybe they might be on here. But the credit to the Titans, they came back and scored a couple of tries, and then a controversial try to Phillips Army. Most Parramatta fans, including myself, thought it was a double movement, but I don't think it wasn't ruled a double movement, and the try was awarded. But then there was a couple of sin bins as well for Parramatta. So
yep, Regan Campbell-Gillard.
Yeah, and Micah Sevo as well. So we were down to 11 men there, and that's where the Titans scored a couple of tries. They were just all over us. Like they were finding the gaps, and they had 2 extra players on the field. So very difficult to defend 13 players when you only got 11. But credit to Parramatta, they stuck in there, and they were behind at half time, and they're only by 2 points. Then a magical try to Clint Gutherson in the corner. Couldn't get any closer. Just the competitor that he is, picked up the ball and just headed for the corner and dived and put the ball down. And there was question marks on whether he got the ball down in time, but his arm and his leg were up in the air and the ball was on the line. So that was awarded a try. And then, as I said, Mitchell kicked the field goal in the 74th minute. So there was 6 minutes to go. Tanner Boyd had a couple of shots at field goal as well, but one got charged down by Sean Lane and one was just missed completely. So in the end, the Eels got the win 25-24, so they just hang in the top 8 there. Another big crucial game this week against the Cowboys, which will determine another top 8 spot, but it was good to get the win by 1 point. The Titans, they'll be disappointed that they lost again another game. Last week it was 2 points, this week 1 point. So their season again is on the line as well. They're going to find it hard to make the 8. I think they're on 20 points as well, so they're one of those teams in that logjam. So disappointing for them. The Eels roll on. They'll learn from this and hopefully can get a victory against the Cowboys, although they're going to do it tough with Micah Sevo looking at 3 weeks on the sideline for a contact with the head tackle, and Regan Campbell-Gillard looking at 4 weeks for knees in the back as well. So pretty disappointing about that. We'll just have to wait and see what the judiciary does to them.
Yeah, there you go. So it's going to be a big problem. So talking about different players, and kicking duels, talking about that a little bit earlier. Remember the good old kicking duels? Never happens anymore. Kind of miss it. Had guys like Wayne Portlock that used to play for Roosters. He used to build them down a bit when he was playing a fullback back in the 80s there. Gary Worfield was there too. He didn't do too many kicking duels, but Wayne Portlock did. Neil Baker, talking about him the other day. Steve Larder used to do them as well. Andrew Fitzhenry got in a few too when he was playing for the Eels. Do you remember Andrew Fitzhenry?
Yeah, long mullet hair, fullback. The couple of ones that I can remember, Dale Shearer, he used to be a specialty for kicking duels in Origin.
In Origin, 100%.
Yeah, and Brandy, and I think there was one down in Melbourne, I think, when Ricky Stewart was playing for New South Wales, down at Olympic Park, I think, in an Origin game. So I remember those kicking duels, but they were certainly very funny, the old kicking duels, weren't they? Like it's like Forsman's back in a game and trying to get that field position. And yeah, you're right, you don't see them these days, but it'd be one of the good things to bring back in a game, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lost thing in football. So yeah, we're going to touch into the soul of rugby league and get some of these things going, and there's some memories back blasted past for people out there. So
well, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with Mitchell Moses in a kicking duel as well, because we've seen how big his kicking game is, and we know Matt Burton, he can get the ball high, but I don't necessarily know about long. So maybe Parramatta Penrith round 26, that maybe we could try and get a kicking duel between Mitchell and Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, so I remember watching. So it was from this year too. It was trying to think of SG Ball jersey flag, like under 17s or under 19s. One of them. One of the young guys that plays for Panthers took a dropout, kicked it like 85 meters.
Yeah,
Seriously,
wow.
65 meters on the fly or something. Went like 85 meters or whatever. When I saw it, I went, "No, that surely that didn't happen." He just absolutely tonked it. I don't know who he is, but I can tell you what, he's got some sort of boot. So there are definitely good talented players around. Like I think the NRL clubs, I don't know if they get lazy or they want to wait until a player gets to the NRL level because then they're more developed. But if they go down a level below, so to New South Wales Cup or even whatever the under 20s called now, Holden Cup, whatever, you've tried to find some of them players, right? Some of them are really good superstars. You're going to get a bit of a rough diamond because they've got all attack and flair. Just but work with the guys. If I was West Tigers and St George Illawarra at the moment, if you're not trying to get guys from Super League, why wouldn't you look at these sorts of guys? Because that they might add something different. They might come from a winning team or winning culture. And they're looking for a crack. That's what Jonathan Thurston did when he left Canterbury too and went to the Cowboys. He wasn't really getting that much of a crack, so he left and he kicked on. Des Hasler did it at Penrith. So
Yeah, well, we saw the under-19s Queensland versus New South Wales State of Origin game last week on Thursday night, and there was some great talent in that game. Ethan Sanders, I think Ethan Strange as well. So we saw some great talent on being played on that night. So yeah, those sort of games you see what's on offer and the talent that steps up in those games, and if they're representing New South Wales and Queensland, well, you know they're pretty good players and definitely ones to keep an eye on and potentially a future in the NRL.
yeah, absolutely. Troy, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. You're gonna be on air on Friday night, or you're gonna be doing something else?
No, Friday night. I'll be back on Friday night on the Pulse FM, and we'll review preview the round 21. As I said at the start, it's getting into the business end of the season, and wins and losses are going to be crucial. And slowly each week, we'll see teams out of contention and other teams maybe in contention. So the top 4 and the top 8 are the ones that the teams want to get into. So it's going to look forward to a great round of footy. So yeah, I'll be back on deck on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. It's going to be very good. Troy, have a fabulous week, and I'll catch you on Friday night there.
Not a problem. Thanks, Duckman.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.